Amanda Land, Amanda Land, Amanda Land. Good morning. The world is terrible, but good morning. We might not be all right, but good morning. What's up? What's up, everybody? What is up, everybody? What is up, everybody? Como están, everybody? This is another edition of Views from Amanda Land. Welcome. Thank you for waking up on the right side of history. We are here with your news and truths by any joke necessary. And shout out to everybody who is joining us from all over. And coming into class. I know it takes y'all a second. Even when I'm late, y'all be late. How that work? How that work? When I'm late, y'all be late. So I don't know how that works. I want y'all to know that I went to Taekwondo last night. I'm getting good. I really, I'm here for the people. I'm here. I'm out here giving you I'm out here with the punches. I mean, I'm just saying, she's a force. She's a force. That's all I'm saying. Okay? That's all I'm saying. I also had a really good conversation yesterday with a homegirl of mine who is going to be joining us on Views for Amanda Land because she moved to Portugal. She was like, I'm out. And what I thought was really dope was that she had been telling her family, like, y'all need to be getting yourselves together for just in case anything happens, 72 hours of support for yourselves. And they was like, you're an alarmist. You're so extra. Why are you talking all of this? And she was like, I'm saying that you should just have these things in place. And she moved to Portugal, okay? She moved to Portugal. Her family lives in Pasadena. If you know anything about the LA fires, they took place in Pasadena and Altadena. So things turn up, literally, and her parents call her like, we don't have electricity. It's going left. What do we do? And she's like, go to my house and go in the garage. There's a generator that I charged there. I left it charged for y'all because I knew something was going to happen. So they went and got the generator. Now they have electricity. So then 3 days later, they're like, we don't have water. We don't have potable water. And she's like, you know what? I knew y'all was going to be in some BS. So go in your closet because I left you what's called life straws in your closet. And they're straws that filter water to make it potable. And I left them in your closet because I knew about y'all. And so they was like, thank you. So basically she saved their lives. Basically. She's also one of my lawyers. So you got to have the right people in the corner with you. You got to have the right people in the corner with you. Want to also remind you all, speaking of people in the right corner with you, shout out to Patreon and the SEAL Squad. We will be having another edition of the Passage Posse Thursday, April 17th. We will be linking up to talk about Parable of the Sower, which makes perfect sense for the story I just told you. We'll be talking about this passage from Parable of the Sower. And if you have not read Parable of the Sower, you don't need to have read it for us to talk about the passage, which is why the Passage Posse is such a great gathering, because not everybody got time to read entire books, but we can still glean really valuable messages and really have great conversation and community around this text, around texts. So last month we did a text from Joy James. This month we have Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. Remember, you have to be a paid Patreon subscriber to be a part of the Passage Posse. This goes down 7 p.m. Eastern. I will post a Zoom link to Patreon and you all can check it out. Something you should also know is that the latest drop from Amanda Land Exports has arrived. It is only available for a week in order for me to get the stuff out to you. Take a look.
Mother is to love with wholeness. Mother is to love with wholeness in laughter, through the fire, on sight, under the weather, over troubled waters, outside the lines of limits. Show love to the mothers in flesh and in spirit, in heart and in soul with the latest drop from Amanda Land Exports, only available till April 21st at amandalandexports.com.
Now, y'all know I'm going to make that much more elaborate, but I had to give y'all something. So go to amandalandexports.com for the latest drop from me and get you a Love as a Mother pin. Actually, I got to send our guest today a little gift because she about to be in Mother Times 2. Okay. Dose. Okay. We are going to be joined by Morgan Debaun today, who is really a bad at being. Like that's not her official title, but it's kind of her official title. But Morgan is the founder of Blavity Inc., which also is the creators of Afrotech, and they also now own Travel Noir and other really dope Black platforms that are actually about something. I know. Who would have thunk it? And she has a podcast and she's brilliant. And we're going to be talking about what a recession is, because Morgan, who I call to ask about money things. By the way, I have a financial planner. I still call Morgan. Okay. I text Morgan. All right. Make sure to check out her podcast, The Journey with Morgan Debaun. So we're going to get into that in a second. But first, y'all know what it is. Okay. Come on. Oh, my God. My mic is in the other room. I'll be right back. Y'all know what it is? Amanda Lander's here to learn. Drop in and tell me where you're watching from. What do we got going on? Where y'all at? Buenos dias, clase. Amanda Lander's here to learn. Drop in and tell me where you're watching from. LaGrange, Georgia. Waterloo, Iowa. D.C. by way of California. London, jolly London. Pay gay blinders, even though that is Brixton. No, that's Birmingham. All right, we're back on track. Danielle, South Carolina. El Segundo, California, where Q-Tip left his wallet. Greenville, North Carolina. Nashville, Tennessee. Buenos dias from Albuquerque, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Manchester, UK. Blue Dot, oh my God! You guys, Nebraska's gonna make the map! We've never had a Nebraska! Reading, UK. Melbourne, Australia. We're all over the map. North Hills, California. San Martin in the house. Roanoke, Virginia. Lansing, Michigan for now, but they're going to be going to Chicago. Guelph, Canada. I've never heard of that before, but welcome. Detroit, what up, though? Birmingham, PKF and blinders. Come on. Amanda Landers. Stop. Uganda is in the building? Is Uganda really in the building? Is you in Uganda or is you from Uganda? Clarify for us. Amanda Landers here to learn. Drop in and tell me where you're watching from. Dayton, Ohio, Pismo Beach. Wait. Levon, how are you doing in San Diego? There was an earthquake. Please let us know. Victorville, California. We got Columbus, Ohio. We got Newburgh, New York. Ottawa. Denver, baby. Amanda Landers here to learn. Edmonton, Canada. Washington, D.C. We got another person in the DMV. Morning from Mac City, National City, California. Basically San Diego. I hope you're fine with this daggone earthquake. Man, there was a lot of earthquakes yesterday. Let's go to the map. Looks like we're adding Nebraska to the map. Oh my God, they're actually in Uganda, y'all. We global. We're global. Okay, Lavon is in San Diego. She said she's all good in San Diego. All right, Nebraska, you on the map. All right, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, West Virginia. Those are the only, and Vermont. All the whites. Those are the states we're missing. Where all the whites be at. Dang. Let's flip the map. Okay, we're going to Uganda. Oh my gosh. I hate though that I can't just be like Uganda. I have to really look for it. Why? Because I was educated in the United States. So my geography is not what it needs to be. But we are learning in real time that Uganda is Eastern Africa and it shares borders with Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, Sudan, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Actually, you know what? I did know that. I did know that. No, we don't have Guyana yet. We do not have Guyana yet. So do we have any Guyanese watching from Guyana? Because I'm wearing Guyanese gold around my neck every day, you know. This is a great Guyanese gold of Grenada. I thought I had a booger for a second. Okay, so this is where we are, y'all. Do you see this? Do you see? Oh, watch. Someone said give him 3 weeks. That means in 3 weeks, he going to be in Guyana and watch the show from Guyana. Oh, God. Bring me back a doubles now. Bring me back a doubles. No one makes a roti like a Guyanese. I know Trini them is like, but it's just what it is. I'm sorry. It's what it is. I didn't shade you. The facts did. It's just what it is. Okay. So bring me back a doubles and a chana. All right. Let's get into our word of the day. The word, no, that's too easy. The word of the day is, that was too easy. So I got to get y'all something more difficult. Dang, that's too easy too. Ooh, that's a good one. The word of the day is mordant. Okay? Mordant. Wait a minute. Young Amanda did not put the definition on the back of the card. Come on, 10th grade Amanda. What are we doing? 10th grade Amanda was messing up that day. Some of these words, I'm just like, I use them all the time. And I know why, because they're here in my vocab file from 11th grade. Okay, here we go. Now, this is actually on theme. The word is clarity. Now, this is on theme with yesterday. Yesterday, we had the word unwanted, which sounds like unwanted, UNWANTED, but it was actually UNWONTED and had a completely different meaning. This word, clarity, similar to the word clarity, spelled different meaning. Of course, clarity, CLARITY, means to make something clear, to provide understanding. This definition, however, is clarity, CLERITY, and it's a noun meaning swiftness and rapidity of motion. Swiftness and rapidity of motion. The word is clarity, CLERITY, Remember, Clerity. Now, y'all was on here talking about wanting etymologies, and I don't see no etymologies. We have a very low view count today. I'm not sure what that's about. It's probably about me posting something about Kilmar. They be hating on these apps. But yes, so clarity, Clerity, swiftness and rapidity of motion. Swiftness and rapidity of motion. Can someone use clarity in a sentence? Can someone use clarity in a sentence? Rolando says, clarity makes perfect. Not always, because Master Michael at my Taekwondo place of study, it'd be like, slow down, please. Because I be doing them kicks and he's holding the pads and I accidentally be hitting his hand and then I'd be busting up my feet because bones and hands are hard. Okay. Brandon McGrath says, I logged on with so much clarity for today's episode in class. We love it. We love it. I'm sorry, but your mother's Jamaican roti is not that lit. I hate to break it to you. It's not. Let me tell you why. Because Jamaicans don't make roti with peas. They don't make a peas. They don't make their roti with peas, with split peas. They make a bus up shot. And that's a different kind of thing. It's more like a gyro. So I know you love your mama. I know you do. But if she making roti like Jamaicans make roti, it's not. It's not. Now, if she's a Jamaican making roti like Guyanese make roti, just keeping it a buck. Just keeping it a buck. All right. So Will Forward says, I'm going to need people to get their aces in gear with clarity, fighting fascism. That is right. Let's see. Sarah Tibbet said, men think sex is all about clarity, and that just ain't it. Cynthia said, I finally used clarity during my morning workout. I think that's what I like about Taekwondo too, is that I'm in there for an hour, but I'm knocking it out the park for a full hour. So when I'm done, I feel like I really did a full workout and I didn't have to do 3 hours to do it. Let's see. Anywhere else? Yes, KWI Bonafide. Trini Dalpuri with the split peas. We eat that with clarity. Dak B says, I don't see the same clarity for parading the streets for sport teams when we really need it for standing against oppression. We just gonna end it right there. We just gonna end it right there. So this week, everyone has been talking about the Chinese putting folks on blast for these tariffs and really making it very clear that this luxury stuff that you've been buying for billions and millions of dollars ain't really that luxury. And all these tariffs that have been happening, I believe I'm not saying that they're not a valid concern, because they are 1,000 a valid concern. They are also, though, a distraction from the other inhumane things that are happening in this world and in this regime's power. Now, our guest today is going to put us on to what a recession is, how it can come to be, why, how you can, if anything, protect yourself, if that's even possible. But the question about could there be a recession, I feel like when we see China really acting like, oh, y'all thought y'all was cute, it really says a lot about how the United States doesn't really understand its place in the world economically.
Nara, to use your metaphor, the US has the bigger gun. And so China ends up having more to lose from this trade war, doesn't it? You know, it can't sustain the loss of 15% of its export market, i.e. what you export to the US.
Not at all. China is fully prepared to fight to the very end because the world is big enough that the United States is not the totality of the market in the world. So if the United States wants to go in that direction of completely shutting itself out of the China market, be my guest.
Yeah, and China will lose the US market, which, as I've said, is 15%.
We don't care. We don't care. China has been here for 5,000 years. Most of the time, there was no United States, and we survived. And if the United States wants to bully China, we will deal with the situation without the United States. And we expect to survive for another 5,000 years.
Amanda Land. We up. Please welcome Ms. Morgan Debaun, who, while that clip was playing, was like, yeah.
We do not care.
That was nuts.
We don't care. That's critical.
He said, we don't care, Morgan.
15%.
That's not also, she was really trying to act like 15% was something.
It's nothing. I mean,
And
the
they
middle
actually-
class around the world is growing so much quicker than
Yes.
it is here in the United States. Our middle class is shrinking. So China don't care. They're like, we can wait 30 years. We do not care.
They actually, I read today that they replaced the exports. They replaced America already with Brazil and somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. Nigeria, Brazil, much larger populations, growing middle class.
Okay,
Wait,
Morgan, first of all, y'all give it up for Morgan Debaun.
What's up, everybody? I've been reading your comments. Good to see you.
By the way, y'all, Morgan was here before I was.
It's true. Amanda said 9:15, and I'm like, I have had Amanda heat before. Today was not the day. I couldn't take it.
Okay, so let me just take a moment to say I just told my mother that story the other day. I said, you know what? Let me tell you why I F's with Morgan Debaun. Because I gave Morgan heat one time.
Bro, I remember like it was yesterday. I was like, what is she calling me right now?
I said I gave Morgan heat one time. And she could have been like, I don't F with her. She's whack. Da, 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 da. She did not. She did not. Morgan did not. And Morgan is in my book because there was a time when I was like, what am I going to do? And young Morgan was like, why are you, what?
Math is not mathing with your anxiety.
Y'all, Morgan came to my house and sat by my pool and got me all the way together with love and knowledge, my two favorite things. So thank you, Morgan, for taking the heat and not burning the bridge with it.
You know, that's what sisterhood is about. That is what it's about.
I wonder if we're talking about the same thing.
I don't know. Maybe not.
I'm like, did I get Morgan?
I'll tell you. I'm talking about when you called because Shadow and Act wrote an article that you did not like.
Oh, that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, what are you talking about?
I gave you heat about merch one time.
Merch. Oh, wait. That was even earlier.
When did I write? What was the issue with Shadow and Act?
Oh my gosh, that must have been in 2018. It was probably during the Insecure days, I imagine. It must have been 2018, 2019. I was living in downtown LA and it was early. I was about to walk to work and my phone rang. And I said, what's she calling me for? What's up? And you was just heated, just mad.
I wonder what the article was.
I don't even remember.
2018?
I don't remember. I'm sure the team maybe didn't fact check something or how they described it was, potentially
flagrant.
Yeah.
Synonyms. Can you please?
Black media.
Because black media, but then you see in real life though.
Look, I could take the heat.
Black media be on some. I remember when black media, you know what's funny about the autism stuff is that in 2020, I did an interview with E. 2019, 2020, I did an interview with E where I just was mentioning like, sometimes I'd be feeling like I might be on the spectrum. And I like gave some reasons why, but like that wasn't when I had really looked into it. And there was Madame Noir. I think Madame Noir did an article on this and it literally says, Amanda Seal says she's autistic, but it was done in a, in a funny style kind of way. I had to give them a call.
Barista calls as owners of multiple brands. I'm like,
but I don't have a publicist. So that's the thing.
Yeah, that's
it's like a lot of people are expecting the publicist to call or whatever, but I don't, so I was like, I got to pick up the phone. I mean, it wasn't a turn up, but it was just like, so give me some insight into how we got there. And she was like, I don't even know.
I'd be like, I don't know. I haven't even read the article. I didn't write it.
That's what happened.
I'll go find out.
Right.
Anyways, we're here to talk about a recession.
Well, yes, we are here to talk about everything is all connected though. Everything's all connected because listen, Black media is about to feel a recession too. So
Oh, yeah, that's true.
right. So tell me, when people are throwing around the word recession, I know that there's a connotation that we all apply to it, that this is a bad thing, but I don't think a lot of us really know why it's a bad thing and what it really entails. And so that is why I've called you in to level us up.
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to be here and to talk to you guys about it. So, a recession is a normal part of an economic cycle. So, it's a circle. Sometimes things are growing and sometimes things are slowing down and shrinking. What the government wants and what politicians want and what civilians want is always a period of growth, right? We're always growing. The stock market's always going up. Our companies are always giving raises. There's always profits. Those profits are equally distributed amongst us. That is like the ideal scenario. And for a while there, America, because we were the global majority power, we were able to have that more often than not, as opposed to other countries that find themselves in a depressing economy that's shrinking and not growing more often than not, which is, I mean, you showed the world map, there's plenty of countries that's happening to, because the bigger countries like ours are taking resources out.
Right.
Alas, we find ourselves in a situation where consumer spending is decreasing. Inflation is increasing, meaning the price of the same thing is going up, even though the value of it is potentially going down. You get that bag of chips, it might have 10% less chips in said bag, but the price goes up nonetheless. Companies are not hiring. They're shrinking their workforces or replacing their workforces with lower paying jobs or technology, AI. And the result is that we all feel it more. So then it kind of starts this cycle where everyone's hoarding more of their money and their cash so that they can protect themselves for the fear of, I might get laid off, or the cost of things are going up. Well, maybe instead of going to Disney World, we'll take a road trip and go camping with our families and our kids. So people start changing their behaviors, which then continues that cycle of a reduction in spend.
So realistically, was this avoidable?
Realistically, economies go up and down all the time. So an average recession, I believe, takes between 10 to 12 months, the longest being like 18 months. But some of them can be really short. Like when we were in COVID in 2020, technically our economy went into recession for like 60 days, which I think was like March 2020, April 2020, and then we had a period of growth. So like I said, it's a cycle. The question is, are people going to do something to get us out of this cycle?
Because then it becomes a depression.
Correct. Which is a prolonged period of a recession. So, when the government did the stimulus checks, the Congress, for the record, did stimulus checks, that was their way of trying to get us out of a recession more quickly.
Okay.
And so the result was that we all had money.
Right. So it could stimulate the
economy and get us out of that cycle as quickly as possible. Right now, what's happening is that people don't know if we're in a recession or not, because a recession is typically defined as 2 quarters consistently of depressed growth. And under Trump, things are chaotic.
Yeah.
It's freaking chaos. I think that JP Morgan Chase has the likelihood of a recession at about 50% right now.
From what you have seen of his actions and his choices, does it feel like he's trying to create a recession? Because I've been seeing that type of chatter.
I don't think he's trying to create a recession necessarily. I believe he is trying to continue to give himself and his friends advantages financially and make those financial advantages larger than they were when he became into office. And I don't think he cares about the consequence of that. Like, I think that's more of it. It's like, I don't think he cares about.
Right. So like recession. It's like,
let them eat cake. I don't care.
So like I was talking to someone yesterday about the market, and when people are saying people lost their retirement, I was like, what does that actually mean? Right. Because I was saying, well, if the market then resustains, like, can't they get that back? And they were like, here's the thing. If you are living off of your retirement at present, you cannot get it back because you are living off of your shares. And so because you're living off of them, you have less shares to sell when it does restore.
Yeah,
Is
the
that accurate?
population that's the most vulnerable is our older population, where they don't have 5 to 7 years to recover
And
from
wait it out.
to wait it out. Just because a recession is over in 18 months doesn't mean the markets recovered in 18 months.
Oh.
Right? So it can take 3 plus 5 plus years for things to go back up to those income levels. I mean, we're even seeing it now, right? Like if you look at salaries today versus salaries in 2020, they're probably lower.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a statistic the other day that said, had the minimum wage actually grown at the same rate as inflation, then minimum wage would be $22.
Right. Wow.
Minimum wage is $7.25.
Wow. The federal. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so how can people live?
They're not. They're in public assistance. So the question is, what happens when people get off public assistance because the federal government is destroying it?
So what does happen? I mean, we're talking about a recession, but it just feels to me like there's an impending depression that would happen because people literally don't have money.
I think the question is, do rich people stop spending? So like the middle class is shrinking. So in some countries, you go and you're either poor or you're really wealthy.
Yeah.
There's like no in between. So that is what's happening increasingly in this country that we all live in. Although some of y'all in Guyana, where we all know.
We all over the place, baby.
Global.
Global.
So, that's really important to understand is like, we may not go into a recession because consumer spending on average stays flat or increases, but who is spending is different than who was spending before. So the population, when you look at the median versus the average, different. I know I'm getting into math. Y'all like, we didn't know we're having math
go for
class
it. Go
today.
for it, because they don't do math in this class.
Right?
So
it's important. It's important for everybody to understand this, because the question is, how do you protect yourself and your family? Because unfortunately, we're living in a society and a culture that is requiring us to think that way. And that's not necessarily how I think we all want to behave. Like, we want to behave in a way that we assume that the government, the police, our education system, the systems are designed to do generally good, more good than bad. We want to believe that to be true. Okay. But the truth is that is changing more rapidly than I think we all want to accept it, because it's really difficult to process. It's like really unfortunate for our mental health to process a world in which, hey, I might be driving on a highway and somebody else is going the other way on the highway, and that could just happen. And there's no consequence for that.
No.
But if y'all travel outside of the United States, you could be driving in certain roads in Nigeria, and
people always say that. Everyone says that in Nigeria, the driving is.
I've been to Nigeria, okay? And I'm like, sir.
My homegirl said they drive in waves. She was like, that's what it feels like.
Everybody stops, let the other people go. Everybody stops because they've had to self-police.
Right.
Okay. And it's not for lack of police. It's for lack of incentives of the structure of said police. There's no incentive for them to do the right thing. So
y'all heard that?
We think we're better than that. We're not. That's the truth. We're not. We're like 5 minutes away.
Yes, we are absolutely very close. I don't know. I mean, we are there. I mean, for what it's worth, when I see ICE just being able to do whatever, we don't even know if they're ICE. People just.
I don't understand how people aren't freaking out more. I know that you said you had a guest on that was, and people were like, it's an alarmist. And I don't know how many more times people need to hear this.
Because people are telling themselves those people deserve it. That's literally what I keep seeing, particularly like when I see a lot of Black folks being like, they voted for that. And then it's like, well, first of all, undocumented people can't even vote. Right. And then it's also like, well, there are Black people that voted for Trump. So there's no they, right? Like, even in the grand scheme of things, we also don't even know where those numbers came from. These percentages of voters.
Visas. So they're saying there's students that are learning in this country, and then they revoke their visa without any acknowledgement. And then they said, you got to get out. or else you're going to get deported, or we're going to deport you because we revoked your visa this morning. Excuse me, what? I was like just in class.
A Palestinian American was in his appointment for citizenship, and they came and took him out of the appointment for citizenship.
And he's been in this country for 10 years, legally documented with a visa.
And they took him out of handcuffs.
And because he was, just to be clear, he was helping negotiate more cordial relations on campus.
No, this is someone else.
Wait, who are you talking about? No, wasn't this the Palestinian guy who was helping
Mahmoud?
at Columbia?
No, this is someone
my gosh,
else.
There's too many.
This is someone else. This is not Mahmoud Khalil. This is someone else whose name I didn't even catch. And I saw this yesterday.
That's heartbreaking. But that's kind of my point. Is like, we're just like,
the rule of law. And we're going to talk about this later in the show about, just the constitutional crisis went to another level yesterday when Donald Trump is sitting with Bukele from El Salvador, and they're both like, we don't got to bring Kilmar back. And then the question becomes, is this man even alive? Right. And the concept of the difference between labor camps, concentration camps, and extermination camps, and like people not understanding that there's a difference. Like some of these places are literally just to kill
I don't think people care. I actually don't think people care. And if you don't care about that, fine. What you should care about is that we have a democracy with the judicial power. The Supreme Court, the highest court in our entire country, said, bring him back. And the executive office said, no. Okay, well, now what do you do when you've defied the Supreme Court? Now what? Now what are we going to do? Because now we're letting that happen. Like, how is there not protest? How are we even on this call right now and not all in DC?
Well, I'm not in DC because my days in the streets are done. But I get up here every day, all day, and talk. And what I do think is really brings us back to this conversation. A lot of the reason why people are not concerned is because they're more concerned about their money.
Yeah, that's true. It's a distraction. It's a great distraction.
People are really talking about, oh, we was in the streets on April 5th. No, you weren't. You weren't in the streets. On April 5th, there were people in the streets for Palestine, but there were not people in the streets on April 5th. They were at permitted places with food trucks that were set up.
A rally.
Yes, it is a pep rally that was created by, it's controlled opposition. And controlled opposition is literally just exactly what it says. It's opposing, but like with barriers and bumpers and safe structures. And it just looks like we are against, but not too much.
Yeah, which is very different than what happened when we did the protest for George Floyd and Mike Brown. I mean, those were not organized, sanctioned.
No, and they happened any time of day, any time of the week.
Every night.
It was, and we see that with Palestine protests. We see that with immigration protests, right? Like in LA, they was out on the 101. Like they literally stopped the highway. And we saw that in Dallas and Houston. So I think the reality though is that those people who were in those communities are the ones who are showing up for those protests. And yet we're not going to see folks show up in those protests until it is really affecting them. And when you see Donald Trump having an aside with Bukele saying, now we're going to go after the homegrown terrorists. And we also saw the lipless lovely, the White House press secretary, who, by the way, I think she got a lip injection because she saw people talking about her nose.
But I haven't seen her updated lips.
Yeah, I think she got a lip injection because that top lip was definitely.
She's been like working out and stuff on Instagram. I'm like, nobody wants to see this. Please do better.
You're also married to like a vampire. He's like literally 85 years old. Long story short, though, there was an aside that was captured on video. And then you see her. Well, prior to that, she was also at the podium saying that Donald Trump is looking into legal ways to deport Americans. And I did my research for y'all, and I will talk about it later in the show about the legal way that he has found to deport Americans. And it involves BlackRock, and it involves land purchase, and it involves sovereign territory. So I will get into that a little later. Yeah. So I have some questions from the folks.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Lauren Moore says, Ms. Debaun, do we need to know the difference between inflation and price increases due to greed and price increases due to thinkings like, or I don't know if thinkings was the word, but like pandemics and avian flu?
I mean, you don't really need to know the difference. Here's what you guys need to do. I mean, we can argue all day about the why or the how or we're getting here and all that. But the question is like, what do you do?
Yeah.
So here's what you do. First of all, you have to make sure that you have some cash. Okay. We're assuming that Trump is a rational actor, but in fact, everything about him has indicated that he's not, which means we're assuming that the banks are going to secure our cash. We're assuming that we're going to be able to go to ATMs and always be able to pull it out. We're assuming that the stock market will go back up within our lifetime. We're making all of these assumptions because that's the way it's always been. And it's very difficult, again, for our brains to process these types of truths. That being said, if you all are waiting for a public government system or mainstream media to say, Mayday, Mayday, it's time to protect yourselves. I want you to think back to COVID. How long did it take the federal government, not your state government, the federal government to say there is a global pandemic and this is what you should do? You should wear your mask. You should do this. You should do this. It took them like 6 to 9 months. It was a really long time. So by then, hundreds of thousands of people were dying. So you have to decide when you are going to take action to protect yourself. Worst case scenario for you is that it doesn't matter. Like you just have some cash set aside, you have an exit plan, you're protecting yourself, you've protected your small business, you've thought through these things, it doesn't matter. And it never happens and you can just blame me and Amanda and that's fine. Okay?
We'll take it.
We'll take it. Best case scenario is that you're prepared and that you're anticipating these things and you're able to actually protect yourself and your family, whatever that means for you. I want you all to just think about it. I talk about this in my new book, Rewriting Your Rules, which is like, how do you make effective data-driven decisions, especially when all of the data is showing us what's happening. And there's historical data from other countries that are showing us what happens. So first things first, cash. You need to have some cash. Second is be aware of the market trends. Be aware of what other people are doing. That is another set of data. I know it's overwhelming to look at things like CNBC, but specifically financial, go watch CNBC. Put it onto your Audible, whatever. Like just make it a part of your routine, even if it feels overwhelming, because you will gain more knowledge just through listening to these conversations and understanding what's happening. The third thing I want you to do is just make sure you have all your paperwork. You know, I went yesterday to court.
What would be considered paperwork?
Like, do you have your social security card?
Okay.
Like, I don't know about you, but I'm like, my social security card, I don't know where that thing is. I've got my passport, I've got photos of things, but like, do you actually know where your documents are?
I keep mine in my wallet.
Yeah. You know, but a lot of people
You know
don't.
what? A lot of people in here are asking how much cash.
Oh, I mean, I'm ridiculous. So
Text me.
I mean, I literally told my fiance I want 10 bands.
Oh, yeah.
Like minimum. That's a lot of money for a lot of people, you know.
It is. It's a lot of money. Yeah. That's a lot of cash to just, unless you are literally a drug dealer.
Yeah. Because here's the thing. The assumption that you're going to be able to go into an airport and like buy a flight to get out. Like all of these assumptions are based off of like a rational way of living.
1000%. And that's the heart. You're so right. It's like, and that's why I've been talking about this a lot lately, that I keep having to check myself because I will like create a space of safety in my mind based on rational thinking. And it's like, this is not a rational world that you're in right now. So
why are we doing this? Like if they're coming to get you, Amanda, because you have been so pro-Palestinian, so loudly, they're not going to let you in an airport that's federally regulated.
Well, we got to see, because I'm going next week. So
next week is not going to be the issue, right? But who knows when it trips over. And again, we could be completely wrong, you guys, and I'm absolutely okay with being wrong. But what I couldn't live with is us having this kind of train of thought and us not teaching each other how to walk through these motions of retraining your brain.
Absolutely.
You know,
not Rolando. Who knows how to fly a plane? Rolando said, who know how to fly a plane? Asking for a friend. Yeah. I like to believe I know how to fly a plane because when I would go to Belize and go to Placencia, they'd be putting you on these little planes sometimes. And one time I went out there and it was just a plane for 2 people. And I was like, ain't nobody else going to Placencia? And he was like, yeah, me. And I was like, you're the pilot. And I had to sit in the co-pilot seat. And I was like, listen, player, I need you to teach me. And he had the nerve to turn to me and was like, so he like gave me the spiel. And I was like, I don't need that. It's just me and you. It's just me and you. He was like, welcome to flight 222. I said, sir, okay, let's say you have a medical emergency. What happens?
What do I do?
Right. He showed me. He was like, you do this. You do this. This is the horizon. Follow the horizon. Take my headset. Put my headset on. They will help you land the plane.
Yeah, I'm good. Just give me the parachute.
Adrian talking about she got an exit plan that doesn't involve flying.
I think that's fine too. I mean, your exit plan could be I'm in a red state and I'm going to drive to a blue state. Like, fair. I'm not saying it has to be extravagant because there's going to be phases of things, right? But most importantly, I mean, even the stock market, right? Like a lot of people are like, buy the dip, right? Like the stock market is at levels that are basically a year ago. So down 20%, down 30%, depending on the stock that you look at. And you could buy the dip, but I would recommend you only do that after you've taken care of the basics, which means you have some cash set aside. You have the water filter that you were talking about earlier. You have just like the basics. I have one of those. I have the water tub so I can have clean water in my bathtub that stays and doesn't evaporate. Like just have that little stuff. Again, these things are important. And especially if you have small kids or a family that is, you're taking care of elders, you're taking care of people who can't move around. You just want to be secure so that you can move on. You can let your brain rest from that part of this equation and then focus on, okay, in down markets, there's also a lot of opportunities to gain. So instead of just talking about the downside, let's take a second to talk about the upside.
Okay.
So you've taken care of that. Now I want you to dollar average cost your investments, which means you're putting in a little bit of money into the market on a regular basis, and that will allow you to take advantage of these prices that are at a discount.
I think the other thing a lot of people don't understand that's not how I meant to phrase that, but what I didn't realize was how, and it was you who really checked me on this, how the bank does not help your money.
Right. Yeah.
It's a secure, even in this concept, it's a secure place. But when we talk about your money, quote unquote, working for you, it's the least effective way for it to do so.
Yeah. Let's talk about it briefly. So there's a concept that I talk about, which is rich versus wealthy. Most of us have been trained to think about accumulating money, that like the end goal is a lot of money and zeros in your bank account. And like that is something that is a signal of success. The truly wealthy have their money work for them when they are not working. Like the actual end goal is leisure and freedom and you being able to make money even though you are hanging out.
Right.
On a yacht.
This is Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Rich Dad Poor Dad. Okay. There's a whole chapter of rich versus wealthy that I talk about. So the concept, and when I was talking to Amanda, when we were sitting at her pool, was like, you've done incredibly well for yourself. You need to put that money to work. And the thing that you can do to help your brain, again, get into a place where you feel comfortable investing in the stock market is you got to have some sort of end goal that is so meaningful to you that you're willing to take that risk. So the basic would be have your cash in a high yield savings account. That's 3.5 to 4%. Just a normal checking or savings account is like less than 1%. Okay. Oh, look at that graphic. That's my book that is out right now. Thank you, Amanda.
No doubt.
So you are managing your risk profile. So high yield savings account would be the lowest risk profile. There's literally no risk, right? Then upwards of that would be investing in an index fund, an ETF, like a very stable one, like the S&P 500, which is an accumulation of the top 500 companies. So it's not going to be too up, too down. The more risky would be an individual stock buying or, Bitcoin.
Right.
You don't need to do all that.
Everyone keeps telling me I'm supposed to get Bitcoin.
I mean, Bitcoin in a recession and a global restabilization, not a terrible idea to have some Bitcoin. Happy to talk about why, but it's not an investment strategy for accumulation of wealth for me. It's a safety net. It's like having the 10K in cash, having some money in Bitcoin, because if the global markets fail, Bitcoin is international.
I
an
see.
international currency.
Okay.
It's not owned by anybody. I know. I feel I always, when I have these conversations with you all, I just don't want you all to feel overwhelmed. I want you to know that there is a way to walk through these things for yourself in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming.
Well, Rena B asked, does moving money to a credit union provide any benefits?
Yes, a credit union is a great option because a credit union, especially one that you have local access to, they have different rules and they oftentimes can incentivize you with a higher savings yield. So they're just like a normal Bank of America or Wells Fargo bank might be 0.434% in terms of return on your $100 or $1,000. It will be higher at a credit union.
And when you say return, meaning you putting money in your savings account and it earning
interest on your account. So if you've got $100,000 and you have 10% interest, you do nothing, and now you have $110,000 at the end of the year.
And the reason they're giving you interest, y'all, is because they're using your money.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. I thought that was obvious. The reason that they're paying you is because they're taking this giant balance sheet of millions, billions of dollars and loaning it out to other people.
It's a Ponzi.
That is why Silicon Valley Bank failed. Remember when that bank failed many years ago?
And they had to buy it out, and they bailed it
out because they had overgiven loans to startups, and then those startups couldn't actually raise all the money, and so they lost all the money that they gave out, and they didn't have enough cash.
And so people are trying to take their money out, and the money ain't there. That's literally a Ponzi.
Yeah, it's not great, but that's how America's set up. So
fair. Yeah. Well, speaking to that, Cassie asked, how is it that the housing market is always going up?
Oh, that's a great question. The housing market isn't always going up. I mean, the cost of houses today aren't necessarily the same price as they were in 2020, 2021. In fact, if you bought a house in 2020, 2021.
I was there. I bought a house in 2021.
Yeah. So the valuation, depending on where you live, may not actually be higher than it was at that time. It just depends on where you live. And the interest rates are constantly changing. So when I bought my house, my interest rate is like 2.84.
Mine was 3.6.
Like, right?
Which is wildly low compared to
7%, which is what it is today. So even if the cost of the house stayed the same, the amount of money you have to buy it and pay your mortgage every month has 2x, is doubled. If Amanda bought her house at 3.5 and now it's at 7, that is 2x, which means that same house costs you 2 times as much in your monthly payment.
This is why when I sold the house, I was up here like,
we had cash, baby. And that's why I'm stuck in this house, because I'm like, my mortgage is so low that even if I have the equity in the house because it appreciated, I'm not moving because I'm not going to pay a 7% interest rate right now. When my interest is so low, I'm basically paying almost nothing for this house.
Okay, we have 2 more questions.
Okay.
Well, this is a great question from Adrian, I think. Is the middle class, so when we're talking about the middle class shrinking, which side is dissolving more of the middle class, the rich or the poor?
I mean, what do you think, Adrian?
She already know.
It's unfortunately, the middle class is getting squeezed not to their benefit. So they're becoming more in the paycheck to paycheck, making decisions about childcare, healthcare. When you have to make decisions about your quality of life due to money, that means that you're moving down. When you're wealthy, you stop thinking about money. Like, I don't think about if I should buy the $7 latte or not. It doesn't impact my ability to pay.
For the record, Morgan just flexed on us and said, I'm wealthy.
I'm just saying, that's not what I was trying to say. What I'm trying to say is there becomes a time in your life at a level where you don't have to think about your day-to-day purchases because it doesn't matter. The more you start to think about your day-to-day purchases and how it impacts your ability to do basics like childcare, healthcare, pay for your rent.
I mean, I remember making a choice about like, okay, if I go out tonight, I can't take a cab.
Yeah, I gotta walk.
For the rest of the week.
I gotta walk.
I'm walking or I'm taking the train.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I had to deposit checks into the bank before we could go do something that weekend. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right, like This
I
will
ate
allow us.
boiled eggs and oatmeal and avocados when they were
That
cheap
actually
in
sounds
California.
delicious. Boiled eggs, avocados. That actually sounds delicious right now. I mean, I feel like when Kamala Harris was talking about enhancing the middle class, that was to appeal to this demographic. But the working class doesn't want to be the working class.
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem that you just hit it right there, Amanda. The middle class was like, we want to be the wealthy. So we want to be with the wealthy guys. And the working class was like, we want to be the wealthy. Nobody wants to be the middle class. So everybody voted for the world in which they thought they were going to get more wealthy. And in fact, they voted against their own interests. Kamala saying very reasonable things like, we're going to give you a first-time home buyer's credit, would have helped Adrian's or whoever the person before about like buying that house. And
if she had literally addressed that to working class versus middle class, I think it would have made a big difference. She never addressed the working class directly. Right. She specifically spoke to the middle class. And so people are not attuned enough, right, to be like, oh, I guess that could mean me. Like,
yeah, they didn't know who it applied to. And they felt like they were going to want to paying for working class, felt like they were going to pay for the people who had more money than them.
Yes.
And that was not what they wanted to do.
And I find that we're in a world where we're in the United States where nobody even knows what that, like, what does working class mean? What does middle class mean? Like, people are still now just learning this language. What is the ruling class versus the proletariat, et cetera, et cetera.
All that really matters is, can you pay your bills every month?
But people cannot.
And that's the problem. Like, to me, that's the problem. It's like, if you can't pay your bills, who cares if you're called middle class or lower class or whatever, or working class? Like, it doesn't matter. What matters is, do you have the skills? Do you have the resources and the network to get to a point where you can pay your bills consistently and not stress about it? And if you can't, then what are you doing to get out of it? Because it's not the government that's going to come and give you a stimulus
here's my
check.
thing, though. Is it fair to say, though, that in some cases and in a lot of cases, there is nothing to be done to get out of it? Because even if the government isn't going to come and help you out of it, they are also actively keeping folks from getting out of it. It's one thing for the government to not help you out of it, but it's another thing to suppress.
I don't agree. Respectfully. I think that every individual has free will, and there are tons of resources that are free or readily accessible for people to gain new skills that are in demand. I see it every single day at Afrotech. I see people who are not in tech. They get access to information about how to get these certifications in cybersecurity. They take the classes, the free resources given to you by Amazon Web Services or CompTIA or all these different.
Do they have kids? Do they have time to do this?
Yeah,
how do they do this?
They make time because they know they have no other choice, and they're borderline on instability. And I see it. I think people are more than capable than what they think to get to work to the next level.
Respectfully, I got to tell you, that is a capitalist mind state. And I'm gonna tell you,
I've told you this. I am a capitalist.
I know, but we're not here at the Amanda Land.
That's okay.
But the thing about that is the blind spot with that is that it leaves out the actual human condition, right? And so what capitalism does is it speaks directly on a grid that ignores the realities of like being a human and having to live. And for a lot of people, the ability to actually exist is the work. Like, they don't have time beyond literally just trying to feed themselves. They don't have time beyond literally just trying to house themselves. They don't have time literally beyond trying to remain healthy. And the government does not allow for any breaks in order to create the space to like do the things that you're talking about. So like meritocracy, because like meritocracy as it exists really is about like how much was invested in you. And a lot of people, when we talk about time being money, they literally don't have the time to invest in themselves. And because we keep seeing the margins shrink more and more and more and more, it's not only impeding their time, but it impedes their literal mental capacity to learn. So I feel
I
like
don't disagree with that. I do believe that for the majority of people who are in that scenario that you just described, it is almost impossible to have the capacity to get
Yes.
ahead and get out of the situation that you're in, because all of the odds are stacked against you at
That's what
every
I'm
single
saying.
turn. The moment that you get some wiggle room, there's somebody knocking at your door for a said wiggle room. I don't
even in
disagree.
other economies, like Italy gives people vacation.
Yeah.
Like they get paid vacation, like even things like that, right?
And I guess my perspective is we're already here. So what do you say to that person? I choose to say, let's figure out a way despite the odds.
1000%. But I also feel like I'm not going to put it, I don't feel like I feel like it becomes our responsibility.
I agree.
Me and you.
I
Like
agree.
the truth of the matter is that when libertarians want to talk about like, we don't want a government, right? I'm like, okay, so if there isn't a government, what happens?
Nothing productive for the little guy.
You know, like, and so if nothing, and if nothing productive is happening for the little guy, guess who they're coming for?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I
it's not like they just shrivel up. So then
but I do feel like my point still stands. Like, I agree with every single thing that you said, but I do genuinely have examples of people who have figured it out. And to your point, it's my responsibility. It's our responsibility to make knowledge and information and opportunities accessible. It's our responsibility to pay for people's tickets to Afrotech, which I do hundreds of people every year. Like, it's our responsibility to make information free instead of behind a paywall. Like,
correct.
That is what we can do. And I can't make somebody take the time to learn about the opportunity. No. So, but for those who do decide to learn about the opportunity and decide to show interest, then how that's my job.
I think the other thing, though, is that as long as we are pouring into capitalism, we are propping up a system that is inherently harmful. Like, I feel like you're only a capitalist right now because of your age. And I feel like over time, because I know your heart, and over time, your heart is going to outgrow the capitalism.
I've tried to get out. I mean, I write about it in the last chapter of my book about how I tried to sell the company so I could move on. But here's the thing. When I saw who I had to sell it to, they were going to do more harm than me staying the leader.
That doesn't make you a capitalist. You are in a capitalist. Capitalism is a framework that we exist in, but it doesn't have to be like our mentality.
If I'm not a capitalist, it would be because I have the privilege not to be. Personally.
Yes.
Which would then still make me a capitalist. I was a recipient of capitalism, which is why I have all this cash to not be a part of the system anymore.
You can't, even you saying like, I feel like it's my responsibility to provide opportunity for people to gain access. You're not actually a capitalist, Morgan. Actually, that's what we're all realizing here in the goddamn chat.
What's everybody saying in the chat? Hold on, let me look.
You're not a capitalist. You're actually a budding
social
leftist.
Enterprise. I'll take that.
You're not actually, you're a socialist. Yeah, because ultimately what capitalism says is exploitation is okay if you can figure it out. That's what capitalism says.
Oh, no, I'm 100% not that.
But that's what capitalism says, right? It says,
I will give somebody else
it's Darwinism. Capitalism is Darwinism. Yeah. It's very, as long as I got it. So it was there for you. Why you didn't get it? That's your fault. I capitalized.
Well, when I say a capitalist, I mean, I'm somebody who believes in enterprising. Like, I'm someone who believes that people have an opportunity to make money and create value through goods and services.
Doing that with a particular value system is the difference.
Correct. I am absolutely a social impact.
Hate to break it to you, sis. You came all the way here to find out you're actually not a capitalist.
I'm a social enterprising.
You're a socialist. I know you don't want to even say that, but you're a socialist because ultimately socialism on a basic level.
Type into the chat. What am I?
Because that's what it is. It's like you should be able to gain by your skill set, by your look at them. We love you, Morgan. Like you should be able to get. Okay, so here's the major question. Do you believe healthcare should be free?
Oh, 100%. That's not even a real question. So my dad and my brother are doctors. So I'm like, I see how my dad's a sickle cell doctor specifically. So I see you know.
You're a budding socialist. You're a mild socialist. If you read about it.
I used to be a socialist way more when I was younger. And then I learned more about other socialists. I don't know. I go back and forth.
Here's the thing about these ists, right?
Yeah.
Communist, socialist, whatever. A lot of times, these theoretical mind states around how society can operate are specifically attached to individuals. And so then it's like, oh, like, yeah, but I'm not like Lenin, you know, or like, I'm not like Stalin or whatever. And so then that makes us say, oh, I'm not that thing.
Yeah.
When ultimately,
or whatever. Yeah.
When ultimately it's like, no, you're that thing. You just don't agree with how they carry that forward. It's the same with like religion. Like you can look at a number of Christians and be like, I'm Christian, but I ain't that kind of Christian. I wouldn't apply it in that way. Like, look at Jewish people. Like there's a number of Jewish people who are like, I'm Jewish. They doing something else. That's not my Judaism. No. So it's that mindset. And the reality is that we are a young world in terms of these capitalist, socialist, communist concepts. And so they're still developing. Like these things are like 200 years old. They're still developing. They're still getting refined. And so with each generation, we see people being much clearer about the refining of how these things actually exist beyond theory and an application. So as we're talking, I'm like, hold up. She's not a capitalist. I know this person. I know her. She's not. Like, it's one.
I actually had to create a nonprofit because my board was like, you're giving away too much. So I'm going to make Blavity.org so I can give it away.
It's just that we've had these connotative words. We've had these words given so much negative connotation by those who genuinely want to keep exploitation as a virtuous methodology. Like that's really what it is. Like capitalism in corporate America teaches you that exploiting people, stabbing people in the back, taking people's ideas, etc., is not a measure of a lack of character. It's a measure of your vigor. You're the lion. But then when you actually look at the jungle and the way it operates, like lions be squatting. They be like, don't come over here.
Yeah, this is my territory. Just stay out.
So I say all that to say that you got your passport and came to Amanda Land to find out.
I'm a social enterprising, almost socialist.
Yes. And the more you read about it, I promise you, because I know the person you are, you'll be like, oh, I actually already do these things. I was just doing them. I was just doing that within a framework.
The definition, I'm somebody who believes in enterprising, which doesn't necessarily make me a capitalist, but by some people's definition, it might. Most importantly, I'm a value-driven entrepreneur.
That's the difference.
That's the most important thing.
That is the difference, though. Like someone who is in Korea in a market selling abalone and decides, you know what? I should also sell kimchi. They're still enterprising. Like it's not on the level of Afrotech, right?
Right.
But if they're doing that in the same mindset of like, and when I sell these things to my community, I'm also going to trade.
Yeah, I'm not going to price gouge. I'm going to give the money to the grandma who made the kimchi. Totally.
Because we don't ever want to get into the mindset. We don't ever want to operate in bootstrap methodology. That if you just pull yourself up by the bootstraps, you'll be fine. Some people don't have fucking boots.
Yeah. So it's the responsibility of the people who have a lot of boots to redistribute said boots. I agree with that every single day. And I think for anyone who's listening, who's like, yeah, the point is actually not the labels. That's not our point. I mean, Amanda and I can banter all day. The point is, do you know your own values? And are you operating even when times get tough, even when the economy is going to be in a rough place, even when there might be danger and violence around you, even when there's other people who are losing their rights that they earned and that were given to them? Are you saying, not my problem? Or are you doing to the best of your individual ability, trying to help?
Here's the bottom line. We're going to require people like you to actively align yourselves with something different than capitalism, aka your values. Because and like when I say that meaning like I had to do the same, right? Because I'm a very public figure, and at the end of the day, everything that we just discussed just now gets grounded in culture. The culture of America has been an exploitative one from its inception. And that can only last but so long, because now we're seeing where it's like we're eating our own, right? Like the United States is eating its own. So ultimately, the only way out of that is to change the mindset. And instead of eating our own, it has to be, well, how do we protect our own so that we can grow our own
and finance our own
and be sustainable? Yes.
That's right. And that's the reason the moment you moved off Instagram, I signed up for your Patreon. The moment. And every single person watching this needs to do the same. If you are a consumer of Amanda's information, the community, the energy that you're feeling right now, where you feel motivated, if you have the ability, you should help this sustain, because that has a greater impact than us just being consumers and not actually contributing.
And that whole consumer thing is what I think the biggest slap in the face is that America is going to receive, is that being a consumer will not save us. And I think we have really, like, I had to check my mom on this, because my mom will just buy stuff. And I'm like, what is this? Why? You know, and like trying to teach her that it's just overconsumption. Like it's not valuable to you, to me, to anything, you know? So we have to at some point be conscious about how we are putting our money, our values, etc., into the world. I know you don't like being called a socialist. It's fine. Everybody in the comments is like, she don't like that. She don't like that.
Well, now me and ChatGPT gonna have something to talk about. Like,
don't use ChatGPT. That's using up all the water. That's using up all the water.
Okay,
but I really will say this. I really will say this. Just know, any word that America has applied a negative connotation to is one that requires research. Because this is a country that every 20 years tells you we've been lying for the last 20 years.
That's right.
So that's just a real basic metric. If they said communism is bad, then you have to at least be open to research what it really is, this thing. Because I know that for so long, and it's also even when America is standing on something is so good, America for so long was like, Israel is the greatest of all time. And then eventually it was like, I need to just research why they're like, what that really means, you know? And I'm going into it with a completely open mind, but just knowing that I know where America is, I know what this country is, that gives me the litmus test of knowing what to put energy into. And I know that for a long time, I just took things at
face
value. And then you start to research. And again, everything is developing. Everything is developing. But I believe, and this is the last I'll say, I believe that it is going to be the values that determine how things develop. You're somebody who is in a capitalist corporate framework, but you have values. That's what makes you different. A lot of people do not.
And for anybody watching, if you ever are trying to question it, just try to remember what happened during COVID. Just try to remember when they said there's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong. Oh, everything's wrong. Just try to remember that moment, because that was the clearest example of our lifetime of the systems were not set up for us to succeed and be safe.
And so we have to be the system. She gonna think about that for the rest of the day.
Chad, I gotta go to Houston tonight and New Orleans. Hopefully y'all will be there for our
What's happening?
We've got our book tour stop in Houston tomorrow night with Chameleonaire. For Rewrite Your Rules, you can get your tickets at rewriteyourrules.com. And then New Orleans on Thursday night, and Black bookstores every single stop. So to Amanda's point about consumer spending and being intentional with your spending, just consider, even if you're going to spend the exact same amount, we're not asking you to spend more. We're just saying be intentional with where you're spending. So if you're going to buy a book, don't buy it from Amazon. Buy it from the Black bookstore. You're still spending the same dollar, but you're having an impact.
That's it.
That's what we're asking. That's it.
Back to community. It all goes back to mutual aid and community.
That's
And
right.
Andrietta said she's going to be at Baldwin & Co. So shout out to the people over at BJ and everybody over at Baldwin
That's
& Co.
great.
out in New Orleans. And congrats to you for writing a book.
Thank you. It's so fun. I can't wait to read your book.
Me neither, girl.
What's coming out in the fall?
November 4th.
I'm excited.
November 4th. It's,
Do we have a title?
Yeah, we have a book cover.
Wait, did I miss the book cover drop? Did you put that on Patreon? Wait, I haven't seen this.
Hold on, let me move this.
A midlife memoir. I love body waving.
Exactly. Body waving through the BS. Just come on.
I love it.
Through it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so excited to read this.
I'm very proud of it, and I am still not finished writing it. I'm in the chapter on codependency, and when I tell y'all, I've been working on this chapter every day for the past 2 weeks. It's just not done. It's just not done. Now, someone here,
relationships.
Yeah,
that's tough. That's tough.
Because I chose to write about my relationships through that lens versus like this nigga and this, like that to me was not gonna be. It wasn't elucidating. Like it's just like, okay, this is a tell-all now. So it's like, how do you write about this through the lens of learning and working your way through it? And in writing this, I realized that my last relationship was about me recreating my childhood home life in order to cure myself. Yes, in order to cure myself, in order to heal my inner child. And that was an epiphany.
We've all done it.
Someone asked, has Morgan ever sold data? Has Blavity ever sold data for, what was the question?
For anything. I mean, I can answer that regardless of the finishing of said question. Blavity sells data every day. I don't know what you think is happening on the internet, but everyone is selling your data every single day. I'm selling your data with your consent, but I am selling your data all the time. That is what people pay Blavity for, specifically on the media side. Afrotech, not as much, but more so on the media side. When you're on a website and they cookie you, which is happening right now while you guys are on YouTube, they're then tracking you throughout the internet and they are selling your data to advertisers. Okay. Sorry to tell you.
Well, this person was trying to come for you, but you just answered the question, and that's that. Listen, because
it's not really a gotcha. Because
because this person continues. They're in here sowing discord. So put them in timeout, Rolando. Saint Enfant Noir.
Yeah,
you can't change the system. People will quote Audre Lorde's master tools, but never actually intellectually engage it. So to me, I'm just like, once you enter conversations around change to sow seeds of defeatism, you're not you're not entering the conversation with like the best of intentions. It's like when people say, all right, so we strike and then what?
Like, why?
I'm like, why are you even, why do you even ask us? So anyways, go to rewriteyourrules.com. Thank you, Morgan, for leveling us up and giving us the knowledge. You are the best, beautiful, brightest, and congrats on being another mom again.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. This baby is hungry.
Go feed him.
All right, y'all. Great talking to you today. Thanks, Amanda, for having me.
No doubt. Bye. Yes, go and get Rewrite Your Rules available wherever books are sold, but try your best to go steal them. Hello. Why did I say steal? Someone wrote steal in the chat. Try your best to go purchase at a Black-owned bookstore, particularly one that reports to the Times. All right. Because the New York Times best-selling book list is a racket. That is a fact, but it's still very helpful and practical. So shout out to Ms. Morgan Debaun for joining us. Yes, Morgs is dope. And I know she was like, please stop calling me a socialist because they're not gonna fund us. I know she was like, God dang, they're not gonna fund us. But I think what you also just witnessed, though, is what a conversation can be like with disagreeing opinions. And that is what is so lacking, is that we don't really get to see disagreeing opinions. Like, because she also, by the way, could have been very within her right to say, I don't agree, I'm not a socialist. And I would have just dropped it. You know, I would have just dropped it. I mean, the conversation progressed in a different direction because she was willing, but she could have also very realistically said the opposite and it would still not have been offensive. She could have just had a differing opinion and it still would not have been offensive. And it's the problem that we have is that so often people feel like, no, we have to yell at each other. And I will say that a lot of people think about me that how I speak into a phone when I am by myself is how I will speak to other people, right? Like I speak into a phone and I talk at a certain volume and I'm this and that, and they think that that's how I'm going to engage in an interaction with someone else. And that's just simply not the case. Like people watched with the Shannon Sharp interview, they've watched with Jason Lee, like they've watched with all these other interviews that I've done, even when I was on The Real, like I never yelled. You know, I'm going to disagree with you and I may do it in a very direct way. However, it doesn't have to be in a demeaning way. And unfortunately, people think that disagreeing is demeaning. And there is a difference, right? I can also I can also say to somebody, we just have a vibrational, we're just not vibrationally aligned. I can also say to somebody, you know, we literally have a fundamentally different philosophy on this. So for instance, like, I worked with a photographer on a project where there was an outside company paying them to take pictures to use for a very particular purpose, right? And they got paid by that company for those pictures for a very particular purpose. So then I asked, well, is it possible for me to acquire any other pictures from the shoot that weren't going to be used? And she said, yes. And then there was a lot of back and forth, there was just a lot of time where I had to keep following up. But finally, you know, she's busy, it's fine. Finally, she sent me prices. And it was like, okay, it's this much to use the picture like on the web. It's this much to use the pictures for like a particular amount of time. But then it's this much for you to outright just own the pictures. And she was charging me rates that were really high. And so I was like, well, I can understand charging this rate to a corporation. I can understand charging this rate to like a mass media organization, but like I'm an individual and I'm the individual in the pictures and I'm the reason that you were paid from the original source of the photos. And she was like, yes, I see what you're saying. But let's see if we can find a thing that will make both of us happy. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I feel like she should have just given me 3 pictures for free. That's what I would have done. That's just how I think. Like, I already got paid for the thing. So I already got paid for the thing I signed up for. So at this point, I'm just exploiting the work more, right? Where you have every right to do that, but it's a choice. It's a choice because ultimately you signed up for this particular thing and you were compensated for that. So it feels like ultimately you're not losing anything to just give me even 3 photos from the shoot. And I thought about this long and hard. And I realized that the only reason that she's thinking this way is because of a capitalist mindset. And in the mindset of an artist in capitalism, it's, well, if it's my work and it's out there, I should be paid for it. And I get that 1000%. But I do think that there's a certain point where that becomes counterproductive to what the point of the art is. Because she's not doing anything with the pictures. Like the pictures are literally just going to live in her drive. And so I ended up responding and saying, you know, the reality is that we have a fundamental philosophical difference on this. And so we won't be able to find a middle ground. we won't be able to find a middle ground. Because I don't, it's like, to me, that's like similar to like if I hire a company to shoot something and then edit it, but then they're like, well, we're going to keep the footage. We're only going to give you what we edited. I'm going to say, well, I'm not going to hire y'all. So again, I think she was just, that's just how she was trained. And that's why I also said like, and she's significantly younger than me. I think she's around like 28. But this is how we're trained, and in her mind, she's protecting herself and she's protecting her business. So I don't even fault her because she just doesn't know better yet. And if she heard me right now, she'd probably feel offended, right? Because she'd think that I'm trying to diminish her intellect. And I'm not by any means. I am just somebody who has grown out of the limitations that capitalism and that quote unquote protecting our work places on us within the framework of capitalism. Because there's perspective that is also beyond money. So the perspective that's beyond money is, well, if I share this work with this person, that's more ways that my work is seen. I can make specific asks around like, I need to be credited every time the work is used. Fine. Then there's also the reality that you continue to grow a relationship, because now every time I do something, I'm gonna make sure you get your check, but I will never make sure she gets a check again because she doesn't think in the way that I think around mutual aid. In my mind, the greater company got you the bread. So here's a great example of this. Makeup artists. So I had 2 makeup artists. I had one in LA and one in New York. The makeup artist I had in New York, I was working with her when she was literally like just trying to get her footing. She would be doing my makeup like in my little bathroom that was literally this big. Okay. And I would be paying her, of course. But then over the years, she started to grow, and 1000%, we love to see it. She started to grow. As she started to grow, her rate started to change. Listen, I'm not saying that your rate shouldn't change. What I am saying, though, is at what point is your rate change exceeding your ability when you're providing a service? So then it became where I wasn't just paying for the service. I was also now paying for the agency fee because she now had an agent. I was also now paying for her transportation. Okay. So it went from me paying for the makeup to get done to now I'm paying for these other additional things. I am the kind of person that believes ultimately there's a certain level of retroactive rate providing that I will provide people who have been down from day one. And like my therapist that I had for years and years and years and years in New York, when I was going through it with the whole unlikable gate, I reached out to her to set an appointment and she said my rates went up. And I said, never mind. And she sent me back a sad face. I love her, but we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Like, your rates went up. I'm not doing that. I'm a long time patient and I don't pay through insurance. So what are we doing? But in the case of the makeup artist, I have another makeup artist in LA, my girl Mel Hunter. And Mel, our agreement was she charges me a rate and she charges the studio a rate. When it's just me hiring her, I get a particular rate. When it's the studio, we hit them in the head. We hit them in the head. Because that is what they're there for. Someone just asked, will my Patreon go up? Let them know. My Patreon went down. Why are you asking? Are you even a Patreon subscriber? My Patreon went down. Okay? Try me. My Patreon went down. My prices for Amanda Land exports will go down when I'm able to sell more. The reason why they're at the cost they are is because my rate is so my my volume is so small, and because so much of my physical time goes into selling, producing, packaging. So you're not just paying for the product, you're not just paying for my name, you're not just paying for my art, you're paying for my literal labor. That's what you're paying for. If you're wondering what the price breakdown is for why things cost the way they cost at Amanda Land Exports, I am a small business. So these costs also are involved in that. Also, Amanda Land Exports supports funding the support of my production team that I need to create the things I do for free. Literally, Small Doses is it's free content. This is free content. It's free, but it is not free to make. It's not free to make. Someone asked, so Amanda, I'm curious, do you think we'll eventually just price out and not be able to afford to live? I think many people are already there. They're already there. I mean, I had to change how I live because I couldn't afford to live the way I was living in LA. Folks are already there. I've lived where I couldn't afford to live. That's why community is so essential. I don't want it to be bootstrapping. I don't want people to think it's bootstrapping when there was a certain tinge of bootstrapping that I know people were getting from what Morgan was saying, but I think when it's framed properly, it's encouragement. And I think that there is a very deep-seated level of effort made in this country to make people feel like they are not able. I saw a video about it the other day where you are basically discouraged in such a pervasive way that it creates a mindset that makes you quit before you even begin. Dang, I forgot the name of this. I'm going to look for it. And so there is an effort constantly to create a defeatist mindset. So like Levon says, San Diego is where the middle class are poor. Studios rent for $3,000 a month. Like that's bazonkery. Like that's bazon. That's just that's just the rental. That's not the utilities, you know? And that's what I think, Andrea, because I know her character, I think that's what she's trying to say. But to be quite honest, the language that we are taught and that we see spoken so often is not really the words that need to be spoken. That's why I said what I said about Kamala Harris. If Kamala Harris had said, we are going to make it possible for the working class to become the middle class, completely different situation. Completely different situation, I believe. However, words like the working class have been associated and connotated with socialism and communism. They are considered like dog whistles for socialists and communists. And Democrats do not want to be aligned with socialists and communists because then that means that they are aligned with leftists, and leftists are currently considered the boogeyman. So you know, what we're talking about right now is like class consciousness. That's the conversation we're having right now here at Views from Amandaland. And I know that I'm not talking about the news right now. However, I really feel like these are the types of conversations that help us contextualize the news. These are the types of conversations that help us create the critical thinking dot connecting that is necessary to be able to make decisions around our best efforts, our best interests. And one of the things that is constantly put in front of us is just lies. Lies. Tomorrow, I'm doing a whole critical thinking conversation around lying. I want you to ask yourself, how often do you lie? And I want you to ask yourself, why? I want you to really ask yourself, how often do I lie? Why do I lie? Because I can tell you that the pervasiveness of lying within our society is one thing. It's the acceptance of lying within our society. That's a whole other thing. And the fact that people have become so accepting of politicians lying as a part of their job description, honey, that right there, the fact that people have become so accepting of mainstream media lying, people are literally like, it's fine to lie if it's going to keep your job. It's fine to lie if it's going to keep you safe. It's fine to lie, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, there's extremes in this situation, of course. I'm not saying that there aren't extremes, but I know that lying is incredibly dangerous. Incredibly dangerous. As we have seen lying now gone to a whole other level because it is scapegoating. Let's talk about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. This is Bukele from El Salvador sitting with Donald Trump. Okay?
Amanda Land. 60-second headline. And I run down some news right quick.
Run it down, mama. Put us on.
So let's take in El Salvador President Bukele and Donald Trump sitting in the Oval Office.
I plan to ask President Bukele to help return the man who your administration says was mistakenly deported. The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador. Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposed to have suggested that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right? It's always how can I smuggle?
Okay, so let me just pause real quick because there's two things that happen right there. Immediately, this man is labeled a terrorist. This man, who we know full well is not a terrorist, who we know is a father of two. He's a part of the building union, even the head of the building union who spoke at Trump's rallies. Even he came out and was like, nah, this ain't gonna fly. We know that this person had been given a stay of deportation in 2019. We know that, right? We know all of these things as facts. We also know that it has already been admitted that it was an administrative error that had him on that plane. We know that. Yet, this person in from El Salvador has very adamantly suggested, just casually, that it's a terrorist. And the question came from CNN, and Donald Trump said, oh, don't worry about it. It's just CNN, which was also just saying, hey, don't worry about them. They don't matter. Mainstream media, wake up.
How can I return him to the United States? Like, I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
Now, what I think is also worth noting is the smugness on both of their faces. They're literally talking about another person's life. And I know it's difficult to call attention to these types of things because it makes your stomach turn. It really feels uncomfortable. It makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. But it's imperative that we always keep our sensitivities attuned. Don't let them dull you. Don't let them dull you. There's a difference between being strong and having tools for staying regulated and simply numbing yourself and creating a hard exterior. That's what they want from you. Watching these men talk about this person their entire life as if it was simply just a game, like a move on a game board, doing so with smug looks, with absolutely no regard for their existence, should make your insides burn. Who the hell are these men? They're just men. And yes, they have the power to kill and really harm people. They are incredibly harmful. That doesn't mean that we should allow them to be exempt from reality. Now, when people ask, Amanda, what do you want politicians to do? You're always talking about what you want politicians to do. Well, here's Here's Maryland Representative Chris Van Hollen. This is what I want politicians to do.
I saw the comments of President Bukele, and I look forward to meeting with him. I've requested to meet with him. I reached out to the ambassador here to ask to meet while he's here. But I've also made clear if we can't meet here, I do intend to go to El Salvador to discuss the release of this individual who is illegally detained. A Maryland man who's the father of 3 in a notorious prison in El Salvador. And I believe the president of El Salvador will recognize why it's important to allow him to return to the United States of America, because it is absolutely unjust and illegal to have this Marylander detained one more day in a notorious prison in El Salvador. Of course, President Trump could have just said, bring him home. Of course, he could have done that. But this is an administration that has lied about Mr. Abrego Garcia, right? The vice president of the United States tweeted out that he had a criminal record. That was a lie. They're just lying. They've gotten caught lying. They don't want to admit it. And they have an obligation to bring him home. But I will say the president of El Salvador should not now take it upon himself to say that he is detaining him for one more day, because that is kidnapping. I understand that the Attorney General said that we would provide a plane to bring him home. So all the president of El Salvador has to do now is hand over and release an innocent man and let him come home to his family.
For what it's worth, I am not confident that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is still with us. So this prison is not a typical prison. And I think what people don't understand also is that, okay, so let's talk about during the Holocaust. There were 44,000 camps. Like, we may know about like Auschwitz and Buchenwald and Dachau, but there were 44,000 camps that all served different purposes. Some were labor camps, some were concentration camps, and some were extermination camps. Literally just made to exterminate human beings. And these camps were not just in Germany. And these camps were used by countries that were now under German rule, so to speak, to unalive their own quote unquote undesirables. So this idea of thinking we think in a very, 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 very small mind state here in the United States. And what I seek to do on this show is to continuously open our minds to realities that are outside of our small realm of myopathy, of myopathy. And that can be distressing and hard. But I think it's imperative for the longer work that has to be done. And though all of this is very overwhelming and stressful, I want to show this clip to you to give you some hope.
What is a new prison? It is a, how can you say it? It's like an industrialized form of prison making, right? When you are put in that prison, you have no due process. You have no visitors. Never did I imagine that we would be in a situation where the Trump administration in the United States is looking to El Salvador, to the Bukele administration, saying, we kind of like what you're doing. Maybe we should take a cue from you. Why don't we just declare our own form of martial law and deny due process not just to people who were not born in this country, but to everyone? But it's important to know that, like any dictatorship, it is not forever. And what's happened now, because of Bukele's administration allowing itself to be used by the Trump administration to house undocumented people, there are cracks that are starting to show. You would not have seen a protest against Bukele in El Salvador. You have in the past month. So people are taking to the streets. The cracks are beginning to show because you cannot have a carceral country without people saying, hey, this is too much. You have taken people with no due process who are innocent and holding them behind bars for decades.
So there you go. There's a little bit of hope, y'all. There's a little bit of hope. And yes, it's exactly the same thing that's happening to the Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang. There's camps in China where they are putting all these people. And, you know, the thing about it is that a lot of Americans feel like we've been like protected. And I don't look at it that way. I really feel like it's not that we've been protected. It's simply that we've just been lied to in order for us to lie to ourselves. A lot of Americans don't understand the immense history of destabilization and fascist leaders implanted in Central and South America by the United States. I mean, the history is long. It's long. It's long. And so I just think it's imperative that we bring attention to what really is going on all the time. And I love that she said, you know, in El Salvador, folks are like, now come on now. We not okay with this. Oh my gosh, I just got the craziest hankering for pizza. Whoa, where did that come from? Oh my gosh, I got to have some pizza today. And so it's a constant effort of expanding your mind, right? It's a constant effort of expanding your mind. We do need a pizza party. Felicia had pizza last night. So there's no, Kashan says, accepting the deep programming of the American dream, aka the colonizer's lie, that has been implemented from the time of our birth. It's a lot to grasp. I'm many things, but I know a lot of people just don't like me because I be dismantling that. And they're like, oh my God, shut up. We over here trying to do the boots on the ground dance. I mean, they don't like me for other reasons, but I know that's one of the reasons. So let's talk about something positive. I was very, very happy to see this.
In this spirit, we call into the space all those who are not able to be present with us today. The indigenous people who have been displaced and removed, our people of...
So, Harvard University was challenged by Donald Trump. He called for Harvard University to lose their tax break hours after his administration announced that it's freezing more than $2 billion in funds for their institution. By the way, why does Harvard need $2 billion in funds? And this is probably why they are doing what they're doing, because their endowment is the biggest endowment, to my knowledge, in the nation. The White House demanded that Harvard, which by the way is the oldest university, make changes to hiring. So this is all that DEI crap, admissions and teaching practices, which it says will help fight anti-Semitism on campus. They literally just be making stuff up. So we're clear. They literally just be making stuff up. Harvard became the first major university in the United States, paging Columbia. Harvard became the first major U.S. university to reject this administration's demands on Monday, accusing the White House of trying to control its community. Then Trump said, well, I'm going to go beyond withholding and I'm going to take your tax exempt status. He did a tweet, literally a tweet that said, perhaps Harvard should lose its tax exempt status and be taxed as a political entity if it keeps pushing political, ideological, and terrorist inspired supporting quote unquote sickness. Remember, tax exempt status is totally contingent on acting in the public interest. So if we're talking about law, which doesn't necessarily matter in this context, but if we're talking about law, students protesting is not Harvard protesting. Just like when I have a guest on my show, their opinion is representative of their opinion. It is not representative of my opinion. And even if you say, yeah, but Amanda, you brought them on your show, there is some conjecture that you can create there, but at the end of the day, that's their opinion. Students at Harvard pay a fee to attend Harvard and go to class. Outside of that, what they do is their responsibility. That's their opinion. Now, the letter, the New York Times got the letter that they were sent. The letter says that the university has failed to live up to the intellectual and civil rights conditions that justify federal investment. And among these 10 categories, they say 1, reporting students to the federal government who are hostile to American values. 2, ensuring each academic department is viewpoint diverse. 3, hiring an external government-approved party to audit programs and departments that most fuel anti-Semitic harassment. 4, checking faculty staff for plagiarism. Now, by the way, this is when they tried to accuse the former president of Harvard, Claudine Gay, for plagiarism. And that's how she ends up essentially losing her position as president. Now, I've wished that she had had more of a spine to her and that she had actually stood up for her students. However, she is married to a white man who I'm actually not sure if he's Jewish or not, but she is, or Zionist or not, more specifically. She is married to a white man. These people get in these positions because they are aligned with the establishment. Let's just keep it a buck. But she did not stand up for her students. She tried to toe the line and still took a L. And y'all be like, but she black. No, there's black skin and there's acting black. And at the end of the day, I'm very bottom line about mine. Are you protecting the people? No. Now, Katrina says something very important here. You see how anti-Semitism has so quickly joined the white supremacy movement. There is no coincidence. This is what I've been trying to get Black people to understand. Zionism is the next wave of white supremacist expansion. In order for white supremacy to retain its power, it has to consistently expand, because it is, contrary to what Donald Trump and his recent presidential executive order states, it is a social construct. Because it is a social construct, it has to continue to construct spaces to expand its ability to exist. As consciousness expands, it has to expand. White supremacy used to be only relegated to landowning white men, and their white women would get a piece of it just by proximity. Then they needed to expand it, because Black people was like, we're really not going to stay enslaved. We're really not about this life. And so they started escaping in large numbers. So they had to expand it, because they also don't want to work. So they want to expand it to people who are going to have more incentive to do the dirty work that they don't want to do. So they expanded it to the Irish and said, okay, now you guys are not going to just be the indentured servants. You can be slave catchers. So now you're no longer going to be the bottom. The bottom is who you're going to catch. They expanded it. Then they expanded it to the Italians. They expanded it. Now, some would even argue that there's a version of it that's been expanded to the model minorities. When you see people like Vivek Ramaswamy and like the Asian folks that joined in with Edward Bloom to undermine and eventually get affirmative action removed from schools, and then had the nerve to come and complain that there was that there were lower rates of Asian matriculation into schools and acceptance into schools, which is nonsense. I mean, I just can't even believe they fixed their mouths to say this after they were a part of this. But nonetheless, it has to expand in order to continue to hold power. In order to continue to hold economic power, they use race to hold economic power. Okay? Race was created for the purpose of holding economic power. So they continue to use race in order to do that. So now they have aligned Zionism and being Jewish with the same space that they have aligned racism. Now, they don't have no problem with you being racist to Black folks, because they're racist to Black folks. But now they have replaced racism with anti-Semitism and are applying the vigor with which they should have applied to racism to anti-Semitism. They're a protected class. Zionists are a protected class. And I say Zionists because not all Jewish people align with this line of thinking. They don't consider themselves supreme. Because who is supreme, really? So when we acknowledge this as Black people in the United States, I think it's imperative that we really get a handle on this, because they're forsaking us in many ways. And the erasure of Black people as a class that should be protected is not only to make us more a part of an establishment to assist in the establishment establishing, but it's also so that there can be room for this. Because what really should be happening is Black people should be saying, well, hold up now. How come y'all are doing all of this for these folks who there isn't even actual violence being enacted against? Because the encampments at Columbia is not violence against Jewish people, period. There were many, many Jewish people involved in the encampments on all of these colleges. So that's not what it is. It is specifically about divestment from weapons and Israel. That's it. Don't let nobody tell you different. So what Black people should have been doing was saying, well, hold up now. Why? Why are y'all doing this? Because when we being racist, when they're being racist against us and they hanging nooses from trees at schools, y'all ain't turning up like that. Y'all aren't protecting us like that. But instead, what we're saying, so many Black people, is, oh, that's their problem. That's not us. That's not our problem. You know, Harvard has the ability to shake off Trump and say, you know, we're not going for it. Not other schools do, but I think it is still celebrate our wins when we get them. And is this a win? What's a win these days? What's a win these days? You know, ultimately, I think it's just worth showing love. And I want to see Chris Van Hollen keep his word. I really hope he does end up going down there and going down to what's it called, to El Salvador. I really, really do. Do you think he's gonna go? Do you all think that representative from Maryland, do you think that he is gonna go down there? Let me know your thoughts. Okay, Fatima says no. Cassie says no. Donna Townsend and Georgina Orwellina say yes. Carmen says no. Actually, you know what? Wait, hold on. I'm about to do a poll. Give me 1 second. I'm about to do a poll. I just got to go to another page. All right. Engage with your audience. Start a poll. Will Representative Chris Van Hollen really go to El Salvador? Go get Kilmar. Okay, so we started the poll. So click on the poll and participate because I want to know. I like what Miss Latia said, which is that his constituents should demand that he does. Now, Lorraine said, be more about that. Is that his district? Is Baltimore his district? I agree, Miss Latia. I think Harvard leads and others will follow. I don't think they're the smartest, but they have the most resources. But they're definitely not the smartest. Remember, a lot of these schools, the percentage of their student body is very, very, very inflated by legacy and by being able to be bought in, being able to buy in. I cannot get past this hankering for pizza. Sometimes I'm just like, I may not be pregnant, but I'm acting like it. I'm acting like it. So while we're waiting for the poll, let's take a look at this picture of my dog Jordy with rabbit ears. How do we feel about this? Does this make us happy? Does this bring us joy? How do we feel about this picture of Jordy with rabbit ears? Because I know that this picture of Jordy with rabbit ears brings me joy. Okay? I know that this picture of Jordy with rabbit ears is a result of my mother, because my mother will send me Easter stuff like I'm 5 every year. I got 2 Easter baskets this year. I'm going to crack one of them open because I want some robin eggs. But Jordy is getting to wear the rabbit ears because she sent me not 1, but 2 pairs of rabbit ears. I'm not sure why I needed 2 pairs. Okay. But there you have it. There you have it. So to bring us back to where we are, Bernie Sanders did a rally yesterday where he said Israel has the right to defend itself. Now, somebody was on here telling me Bernie is the only politician who has referenced the genocide and who has called it a genocide several times. He has never referred to the genocide as a genocide. He literally dodges it like the Matrix. He never has. And to stand up and say Israel has a right to defend itself on April 15th, 2025 is bonkers. Namely because Israel actually does not have the right to defend itself. They literally don't have the right to defend themselves. They are an occupying nation. So as an occupying nation, you don't have the right to defend yourself against your occupiers. So there's that. Now, by the way, I told you I was going to tell you that is correct. Now, I was going to tell you about this whole Bukele thing. There's another level to this. BlackRock has proposed to the White House getting funding to create a paid mercenary, so a paid militia, because they are a mercenary militia, a paid mercenary squad that would round up immigrants and would deport them, except here's the thing. The United States is apparently in talks to buy land from El Salvador and make it sovereign American land, so that when they are deporting people, it is not officially a deportation. And when they get to that land, they now become just Americans who are imprisoned in other countries. The land would be leased from El Salvador. So that's the tea. I consume an insane amount of media in order to be able to relay these things to you. And yes, 5 fights, it would be another Gitmo. That's what it would be. Another Gitmo. As in Guantanamo Bay. So there you have it. And let's look at the poll. So do you guys think that he will end up going to go get Kilmar? And 68% of folks have said no. They do not think that he will actually go. I don't know. If you get a white man like really on his vibe, things start to happen. So the question is, like, is he on his John Brown? Is he on his John Brown? If he doesn't go, it's because Kilmar is already deceased. Now the question becomes, does he tell us that? Or does he just switch up? Now, see, I didn't even realize he was a senator. I thought he was a representative. But he's a senator, so he has more power. Thank you for correcting me. We'll see. We shall see. Have we heard Wes talk about this at all? The governor of Maryland? Has he mentioned this at all? I haven't seen anything. So I don't know. Want to also remind you that the SAVE Act made it through the House, and 4 Democrats voted on it. So want to remind you of that. I was looking for a video that I can't find in my phone, and I'm really like bothered that I can't find it because I was really looking forward to this video. Oh, I found it. Want to remind you that Small Doses podcast has new episodes every Wednesday. And this latest episode, Side Effects of How COVID Affected Young Lives, is now available wherever you get your podcasts. So would love for you to go and check out with my homegirl. It's an episode with me and my homegirl, poet, author, thought leader, organizer, activist, Mahogany Brown. And we just had like a really cool conversation related to a book that she just wrote. Check it out.
4% of high school students had more signs of depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts. So how you just want somebody to go work when over half of them and their classmates don't want to be here no more?
And also work is terrible.
You're not actually putting together a workforce for critical thinkers. You're putting together a workforce of folks that just get in line and don't ask questions. I would say gratitude to the young people and space for them to, get it wrong. I'm not saying space to like fuck it up.
Yeah. Like
I'm saying space to get it
enabling.
Wrong. Yeah. You have a chance to get it wrong. Not I'm going to stand over you and banish you for every mistake, but this is how you do better. And then for the young people, it is the thank you letter. It is an apology. It is an I see what you gave up, because more times than not, that's where the anger comes from.
Resentment.
In the invisibility of like, you don't even see what I did. You didn't even say nothing. You don't even care. So why'd I do it in the first place?
Check that out wherever you get your podcasts. Also, make sure to watch on Patreon, where we have the bonus section, as well as be able to watch. Like, you can listen for free, but you can watch on Patreon, and you can get ad-free audio on Patreon. So positive things on Patreon going along with Small Doses podcast. Now I want to get into something just really light real quick. let's just get into something really light. So how about we talk about how Black I feel today?
How black do you feel today?
It's just really like money. It's like their pet or something. They just be like, oh, you have more money than me. Oh, no, you have more money than me. And they just start fighting. Because money is green. And you get to buy stuff. And adults like a lot of stuff. Whack shoes, whack ties, and everybody likes money. When it comes to money, you get fights. And when it comes to fights, you get hospitals. When it comes to hospitals, you get money.
That baby is a genius. That baby is a genius. Wait, who are y'all talking about in here? I missed something. Oh my God, Joshua, cut it out. What is wrong with y'all and this lady? Why do y'all like this lady so much? She's not smart. She's not funny. She's not pretty. Like, I'm just like, what? Her edges always look a mess. She's a powerhouse. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. We're calling grifters powerhouses. We're calling lying grifters who weaponize their people, who weaponize their culture and race against their people. Get him out of here. 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 Unbelievable. Her foundation don't even match. Don't make me get petty, because you know a Grenadian will get petty. Let me tell you something. I know y'all be trying to be up here on the vibrations, but thank you, Sandy. But West Indians don't play that. You start coming sideways, we just gonna get petty. Don't have a lazy eye and come sideways at a West Indian, because that lazy eye is getting brought up. Okay? Every flaw that you have come to no longer be insecure about, that you went to therapy to get over, a West Indian will bring that right out. Okay? Not y'all telling me somebody who edges ain't never where they could be. Never. I just don't understand, like, what, how do y'all like me and that? How do y'all like me and that? Well, Faith said I have a lazy eye. Faith, you better watch your step around West Indian people, because that lazy eye gonna get brought up. They gonna be like, you know, Faith, but she lazy eye. It's like, dang, couldn't it just have been Faith? Why we even gotta mention the lazy eye? Because she did me sideways. So we gotta call it all out. We gotta bring it all to the surface. Yes. Like, if y'all asking whose edges, the chat will let y'all know. Because I don't say that person's name. I don't got the time. But that little baby knew what he was talking about, and it really related to the conversation that we had earlier with our good friend Morgan Debaun, and the realities around recessions, impending recessions, capitalism, et cetera, et cetera. And the truth of the matter is that we just don't really understand how deep capitalism is within it's so ingrained. It is so ingrained, y'all, into the fabric of this nation, this existence, that people don't even realize that they're not it. But other people don't realize that they are it. Yeah, they are it. Now, looking forward to tomorrow. I was hoping we were supposed to have Grant Minor from the Encampments on the show, but he hasn't hit me back. And so that's not going to happen. I don't think so. But maybe it will. Who knows? In the meantime, in between time, I also want to remind you all that we will be having the Passage Posse on Thursday night at Patreon. Also want to remind y'all that the latest drop is available over at Amandaland Exports. Also want to let y'all know, oh my gosh, Jordy. That must be a dog. He turns up different for a dog than the mailman. He be acting like the dog is going to come in the house. He be acting like the dog is going to come in the house. The dog is not going to come in the house, Jordy. I promise you. Well, tomorrow I'm really excited because we have Garrison Hayes joining us for 60-second headlines. So that's going to be a fun time. If you don't follow Garrison Hayes on the Instagrams, you should. He also does a lot of work with Mother Jones. So he's a really just a great. He's also married to a Grenadian. Yeah. Blaja. So check that out tomorrow. Patrice says she's going on her family trip tomorrow to DC. Pray for you. We're going to pray for you, Patrice. We're going to pray for you, Patrice. We're going to pray for you. Okay. Let's get into our PSA and get on out of here. PSA. So I get labeled difficult. A lot of times it don't be legit, but sometimes I be really being difficult. So I felt like I would share with y'all a story of me being difficult. So I got invited to a screening of a show. And the person invited me and said, just RSVP to this address. So I RSVP'd. The response to the RSVP was, can you confirm where you got this RSVP from? I ain't like that, y'all. I ain't like that. Okay. The reason why I didn't like that was because it's like, why do I gotta get verified? So I then replied with, my name is Amanda Seals, because I realized that my email didn't like clearly state that. Okay. So I said, my name is Amanda Seals. So then they replied with, hello, Amanda. Can you please verify where you got this invite from? And y'all, I ain't like that. And I said to myself, this is you being difficult. If you were ever curious about the whole difficult thing, this is an example of you being difficult, because you really could just say, I'm going just tell them, right? Like you really could just do that. But I ain't like that, because I told you my name. And I know that this is some little person responding to the marketing thing, you know, who is like on their little team. And so they then sent me an email yesterday saying, hello, Amanda. Unfortunately, we cannot accommodate this RSVP at this time. Thank you for your interest. So then I replied, that's fine. I have no interest in being in the company of those that don't know who I am or why I should be in attendance at their event. For the record, Rhonda Girard invited me. I'm gonna go to Taekwondo instead. I didn't like that. I did not like that. Now, okay, so was I being difficult? Tell me, because I really felt like I was being difficult, but I was fine with it. I ain't gonna lie to you. I knew that I was being difficult. I know, but I was. I said I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. If I'm being difficult, I'm fine with it. And the reason why I feel like it's difficult is because I could have just responded. I also felt like Adrian said that wasn't difficult. Difficult would have been me copying Rhonda on the final email. Dawn said, okay, there was some ego on this that can translate as difficult. Okay, now here's the thing. Ego gets a bad rap, but sometimes ego is what you need. Like, I don't think that that's necessarily ego in a bad way. I know who I am. I know what I'm about. I don't know why I got to tell you where I got this invite from. By the way, if this is the type of event where just anybody come in, I don't need to be there anyway, to be quite honest. This means that, oh, is your event not VIP where anybody could just show up? Because if it's that, then I don't want to be there necessarily anyway, because I don't really know what y'all be talking about. But I really do feel like sometimes ego is framed as a negative, but it can be a negative when it becomes the enemy. However, ego is also like your awareness of you and, you know, how you exist in the world. So I guess I was difficult, but I said, nah, y'all. I just, you know what? I like the way Larissa put it. Larissa says she simply didn't want to accommodate their incompetence. Okay. So I guess this ends up being a PSA, a public seals announcement about ego. Sometimes it's doing too much. In this situation, though, it just felt like if I tell you my name and I have this address, I don't need to confirm for you where I got this address from, because that makes me feel like you think I'm not official tishel to be there. And maybe that's my own stuff, but I'll own it, because I have a feeling that it's not my own stuff. It's you, and whatever position you've been in, following whatever rule, whatever instructions you've been given, but without actually understanding how that can be read on the other side. PSA. Hey, what a great time with y'all. Shout out to Morgan Debaun for joining us. Such a lovely interview, such a great just reflection upon understanding recession, understanding the monies, understanding the difference between these labels, capitalist, socialist, blah, 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 all of that. You know what I mean? I think it's really valuable when we can all learn together and without, quote unquote, ego. Shout out to all of you all who submitted a super today in the show and who really felt empowered. And then yay! Okay, we got some the British crown. All right, we got some pounds in there. All right, so thank you all. We got a Canadian money there too. I learned about an app called Wise that allows you to hold money in a different currency. And I thought that was really interesting. Now, y'all know that I do not mess with a particular publication that is a legacy brand for Black women. However, there is an article about Grenada in their latest issue. Because I don't mess with them, I will not promote the image on here because I don't want they brand sullying my space. That said, if you want to learn some more about Grenada and show some love to Grenada, then you can figure out from the people in the chat where to find that. Okay. Remember to replay the episode and drop a comment in the comments after the show. Help us get through this algorithm. Also, remember that we can also, yes, both e-brands are sketchy. So also, remember that you can also subscribe to Patreon and further support the work that I do every day to try to inform, encourage, etc., etc. And go over, if you're on Instagram, and follow Mount Cinnamon in Grenada. Go follow Mount Cinnamon in Grenada. They are some friends of mine, and they are featured in that Grenada article, and they deserve some love. So go on Instagram, go to Mount Cinnamon Grenada and tell them Amanda sent you. Make sure when you do it that you tell them Amanda Seals sent you. Okay? Make sure. Y'all gonna do that? Are y'all gonna do that? Please do. Bidich says to watch the We Want the Funk documentary on PBS. Thank you for the suggestion. I will check it out. If you've never watched Scavenger's Reign, that was also kind of major. So I'm watching that out. So thank you all for saying that you are going to go over on Instagram to Mount Cinnamon and show them some love. Actually, let me just put it up on the screen. Let me just put them up on the screen. You know, when I was sexually assaulted at another place, at a hotel, I really felt like I would not feel safe in hotels again. And I gotta say, when I went through the hurricane, I was at Mount Cinnamon in Grenada, and they really made it like they restored my faith in hotels. They restored my faith in hotels because they were so accommodating and so helpful and so just really available and made everybody feel so safe, like so safe. So I'm going to always show them love. And their IG is right here. And it is, oh my God, mouse, please. It is Mount, I'm struggling, Mount Cinnamon Grenada. Okay, so you can go over there, show them some love, let them know Amanda Seales sent you. And also remember that Morgan Debaun, our guest earlier, her book, Rewrite Your Rules, is now available. And you can find out when she is going to be in a city near you at rewriteyourrules.com. Okay, so follow them, drop in the comments, let them know at Monk Cinnamon that Amanda Seales sent you. And oh yeah, no, I'm not bringing people to Grenada. I don't want that much responsibility. Nope. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want to bring my work to Grenada. I'm cool on that. I'm cool on that. And yeah, show them that's really what they want, is they want love. You know, they want love. And I'm sure they posted the article on their page anyway, so you can go there and see that. Y'all want to go on a squad trip to Grenada, you can go without me. I will not be there. Yeah, I will not be there. So, well, Mount Cinnamon is busy, particularly during Easter. That I know. All right, y'all. I'm about to have some pizza. That's what I'm about to figure out immediately, is some pizza. So you guys have a really great day. And let me just get this person out of here. Y'all have a really great day. And remember, we are each other's business. When we look out for each other, we lift each other up.
30 seconds of stillness.
I enjoyed laughing and learning with you. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And tell your friends. Also, listen to the podcast. It's available everywhere pods are casted. Listen ad-free by subscribing to Patreon Amanda Seales. Come on and join the Seales Squad. Views from Amandaland. Live 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Wednesday, with content on Thursday and Friday at YouTube Amanda Seales TV.